This story comes from one of my subscribers. They told me it happened on Halloween night, in a quiet neighborhood where nothing bad ever happens. The kind of place where the biggest scare is running out of candy before the kids stop coming. They said they almost didn't send this story because even years later, they still don't understand what they saw that night. And sometimes, when October comes around, they still hear the knocking. It was Halloween 2019. The house was decorated, pumpkins glowing on the porch, cobwebs stretched across the railing, and a bowl of candy ready by the door. They lived alone then, but they liked the holiday. They said it made them feel connected to something, like being part of the world again. The night went like any other Halloween. Children laughing, parents chatting in the distance, tiny hands knocking and yelling, "Trick or treat!" They smiled, handed out candy, and watched the kids walk away under the orange streetlights. Then, around 9:15 p.m., the air changed. The laughter stopped. The street outside was suddenly empty, too quiet for Halloween night. And then came the knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. They opened the door, expecting maybe the last group of kids before bedtime. There were 4 children standing on the porch. A witch, a clown, a pirate, and a princess. At first glance, normal. Until they noticed the stillness. None of them moved. None of them made a sound. Just stood there, staring. The costumes looked old. The kind of fabric that yellows with age. Dusty, frayed around the edges. Like something from a trunk that hadn't been opened in decades. And then, the light from the porch flickered. That's when they saw it. The masks. Smooth, white, featureless. No eye holes, no mouth, no expression. Just blank, pale faces staring straight ahead. They tried to laugh it off. "Cool costumes," they said, forcing a chuckle. "Very creepy." No response. The kids just stood there, silent. Then one of them, the smallest, maybe 7 years old, stepped forward and held up a small brown paper bag. The subscriber reached into the candy bowl with a shaking hand and dropped a few pieces inside. That's when they noticed the bag was perfectly clean. Not wrinkled, not folded, not even creased. It looked brand new, untouched, like it had never been opened before. They looked up again, and the 4 figures tilted their heads, all at the same time, perfectly synchronized. Then came the sound. A faint whisper coming from all of them at once. It didn't come from behind the masks. It came from everywhere. "We used to live here." The words froze them in place. They dropped the candy bowl, the pieces scattered across the porch, and in that tiny flash of chaos, the porch light flickered again. For a split second, they saw what was behind the masks. It wasn't skin, it wasn't bone, it was nothing. An empty, black space, a void shaped like a child's head. They slammed the door shut and locked it. Their heart was pounding. They ran to the window and pulled the curtain aside just a bit to peek out. The 4 children were still there, standing in silence, not moving. But now, there were more. 2, 3, 5. More figures walking slowly down the street, masks glowing faintly under the streetlights. Each one carrying an empty bag, each one tilting their head toward the house. And then, all at once, they turned and walked away. Not toward the road, not toward the other houses. They walked into the dark, straight into the empty lot across the street, and disappeared. The next morning, the subscriber checked their security camera footage. There was no sound, no movement, no sign of anyone on the porch that night, except at the very end of the clip, right before the camera shut off. A small hand pressed against the lens for less than a second. Just long enough to see that the hand wasn't human. Pale, smooth, no fingerprints. Just blank. The subscriber said they moved a few months later. They couldn't stand the sound of knocking after that. Even now, every Halloween, they turn off all the lights and pretend they're not home. Because when you hear trick or treat in the dark, and no one's supposed to be outside, it's already too late. I just want to say, I love reading your stories and turning them into something special. If you have your own true or strange experience, write it in the comments. Maybe your story will be next. And remember, if you open your door this Halloween, look closely, because those kids, they might not have faces.